Okay, so this is the daf for Shabbat, Erev Pesach, April 12th, 2025. Please do not watch this on Shabbat or after Shabbat because it's Pesach for 2 days for Yom Tov. Please study it before. I'm going to try and get it up before or after, but not on Shabbat or the holiday. Thank you. So we're in Makkot, Daf 4. We left off talking about water going into a mikveh, dyed water, wine going into a mikveh. So I'm going to back up to the end of Daf 3. It says, the Gemara asked with regard to Rav's statement, but didn't Rabbi Chia teach that 3 log of water into which a quartov of wine fell reduced the ritual bath into a state where it is no longer valid? Rav said that this baraita is not difficult, as the statement of Rav is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori, and that baraita taught by Rabbi Chia is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, meaning the majority, who disagree with Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori, as we learned in a Mishnah, Mikvaot 7.5, in a case where there are 3 log of water drawn, and now we're in Daf 4, less 1 kav, so that's 3 log of drawn water minus 1 quartov, or any measure of water into which a quartov of wine fell, increasing the measure of liquid to a total of 3 log, and the appearance of those 3 log is like the appearance of wine. And then those 3 log fell into a ritual bath, completing its requisite 40 seah. It did not invalidate the ritual bath because 3 log of drawn water invalidate the ritual bath, and less than that measure of water fell into the ritual bath. And likewise, in a case where there are 3 log of drawn water, less 1 quartov into which a quartov of milk fell, and the appearance of those 3 log is like the appearance of water, and those 3 log fell into a ritual bath, completing its requisite 40 seah, it did not invalidate the ritual bath, because in this case too, less than 3 log of drawn water fell into the ritual bath. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says everything follows the appearance of those 3 log. Therefore, if it has the appearance of wine, it does not invalidate the ritual bath. If it has the appearance of water, it invalidates the ritual bath. Perhaps Rav Yehuda says that Rav says that the mixture of water and wine does not invalidate the ritual bath because it holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori that everything follows the appearance. So Rabbi Chia holds in accordance with the opinion of the first Tana that the amount of drawn water is the decisive factor, and therefore, regardless of its appearance, 3 log of water invalidates a ritual bath. And that actually reminds me of like kashrut. So they say like if something doesn't appear kosher, don't do it, don't eat it. And that's like in the case of like imitation. So if somebody thinks that if somebody could mistake what you have as being not kosher, don't eat it or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why that's probably one of the reasons why you don't have like chicken and cheese or something like that, but following the appearance. But this is a different case, so just continuing. The Gemara asks the Gemara asks, wasn't this matter already raised as a dilemma by Rav Papa? As Rav Papa raised a dilemma, there are 2 ways to explain the Mishnah. One is that Rav teaches, in a case where there are 3 log of drawn water less 1 quartov in the first clause, but in a case where there are 3 complete log of water according to the first Tana, it invalidates the ritual bath even if its appearance is that of wine. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori comes to say everything follows the appearance, meaning that even in that case, if its appearance is that of wine, it does not invalidate the ritual bath. And if that and if that is the dispute, Rav states his opinion in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori. Okay, so it says, or perhaps Rav did not teach. In a case where there are 3 log of drawn water less 1 quartov in the first clause of the Mishnah, rather he taught, in a case where there are 3 complete log of water into which a quartov of wine fell, according to this version of the Mishnah, even the first Tana agrees that if its appearance is that of wine, it does not invalidate the ritual bath. And when Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori disagrees, it is only with regard to the latter clause that he disagrees. In a case of 3 log of drawn water less 1 quartov into which a quartov of milk fell, and the appearance of those 3 log is like the appearance of water. The first Tana holds that in order to invalidate a ritual bath, 2 criteria must be fulfilled. There must be 3 log of water, and its appearance must be that of water. in this case, there is less than 3 log of water. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that there is only one criterion, appearance. Therefore, in the case of milk, the ritual bath is invalidated. Okay, and according to this latter rendering of the dispute, Rav states his opinion in accordance with the opinion of everyone. Why then does Rava state this statement of Rav is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Okay, the Gemara answers, this is not difficult, as although for Rav Papa there is a dilemma how to interpret the Mishnah, for Rava it is obvious. Apropos this discussion, the Gemara relates that Rav Yosef said, I did not hear this halacha with regard to the dilemma whether the first clause of the Mishnah includes the phrase, less one kortov. Abaye said to him, you said it to us, but you forgot due to your illness, and this is what you said to us. Rav did not teach less one kortov in the first clause of the Mishnah, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri disagrees with regard to the latter clause. It is Rav who states his opinion in accordance with the opinion of everyone. So Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, in the case of a barrel full of drawn water that fell into the Mediterranean Sea, concerning one who immerses there in the spot where the water fell, the immersion did not affect his purification, because we are concerned that 3 log of drawn water should not be collected in one place, in the place where he immerses. The Gemara qualifies this halacha, and this applies specifically to the Mediterranean Sea, whose waters are largely stagnant. But in a case of a standard river whose waters flow, no, this halacha does not apply, as the water from the barrel will immediately intermingle with the river water. The Gemara notes, this is also taught in a Baraita. In the case of a barrel full of wine that fell into the Mediterranean Sea, concerning one who immerses there, the immersion did not affect his purification, because we are concerned that 3 log of drawn wine, that is unfit for immersion should not be collected in one place. And likewise, a loaf of teruma that fell there where the wine fell is impure through contact with the wine. It's interesting that they're talking this, because these are all this is completely like a theoretical argument. The Gemara asks, what is added by the clause introduced with the term "in likewise"? If the concern is that the wine remained in one place and did not intermingle with the seawater, ostensibly that concern applies to halachot of ritual impurity. The Gemara answers, lest you say that there, with regard to immersion, the reason he is impure is that since there is uncertainty whether his immersion affected his purification, the principle is, establish the person on his presumptive status of impurity. So, but here, in the case of a loaf of teruma, since there is uncertainty whether it was rendered impure, the principle is, establish the teruma on its presumptive status of purity. Therefore, the Tana of the Baraita teaches us that the concern that the loaf touched the wine is substantial to the extent that it prevails even over the loaf's presumptive status of purity. Okay, the Mishnah says, back to the Mishnah, if witnesses said, we testify with regard to a man called so-and-so that he is liable to pay another person 200 dinars, and they were found to be conspiring witnesses, they are flogged, and they pay the money they sought to render him liable to pay. Why do they receive 2 punishments? It is due to the fact that the course that brings them to liability to receive lashes is not the source that brings them to the liability for payment. This is a statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis say anyone who pays as punishment for a transgression is not flogged for that same transgression. Likewise, if witnesses said, we testify with regard to a man called so-and-so that he is liable to receive 40 lashes, and they were discovered to be conspiring witnesses, they are flogged with 80 lashes. 1 set of lashes due to violation of the prohibition, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, Exodus 20:13, and 1 set of lashes due to the verse, and you shall do to him as he conspired, Deuteronomy 19:19, which is the punishment for conspiring witnesses. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis say they are flogged with only 40 lashes. And when it says the rabbis, it means the majority, and we follow the majority. So they are flogged with only 40 lashes due to the verse, quote, and you shall do to him as he conspired. So, continuing, Amud Beit. So the Gemara says, with regard to initial dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis, meaning the majority, and the Mishnah, whether conspiring witnesses pay and are flogged, the Gemara asks, granted, according to the rabbis, The verse that states, the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before him according to the measure of his wickedness, Deuteronomy 25, verse 2, is written concerning one who is liable to receive lashes from according to the measure of his wickedness. That's a quote from, quote, according to the measure of his wickedness. It is inferred with regard to an individual who commits one transgression. From one evil doing, you can render him liable, but you cannot render him liable for two evil doings. One cannot receive two punishments for the same act, but according to Rabbi Meir, what is the reason that he is punished twice for committing a single transgression? Ula said, Rabbi Meir derived this halacha from the halacha concerning one who defames his wife, claiming that when he consummated the marriage, he discovered that she was not a virgin, just as the defamer is flogged and pays, as it is written, quote, and they shall chastise him and fine him 100 silver coins, Deuteronomy 22:18-19. So too anyone who commits a transgression, punishable with lashes, and a monetary payment is flogged and pays. The Gemara questions this derivation. What is notable about the case of a defamer? It is notable in that the payment of the defamer is a fine, which is fixed sum that the Torah deems him liable to pay. How can the halacha of conspiring witnesses, whose payment is monetary restitution, be derived from there? The Gemara answers, Rabbi Meir holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says the payment that conspiring witnesses are liable to pay is a fine. The Gemara comments, there are those who teach this statement of Ula with regard to that which is taught in the Braita. It is stated with regard to the Paschal offering, quote, and you shall let nothing of it remain until morning, but that which remains of it until morning you shall burn with fire. Exodus 12:10. The verse comes to provide a positive mitzvah to burn the remains after it has taught a prohibition, which states, you shall let nothing of it remain. To say that one is not flogged for its violation, this is a statement of Rabbi Yehuda. This is a prohibition whose transgression entails the fulfillment of a positive mitzvah, in which case the mitzvah serves to rectify the violation of the prohibition, and no lashes are administered. Rabbi Akiva says, the fact that one is not flogged is not for that reason. Rather, it is due to the fact that this prohibition, quote, and you shall let nothing of it remain, is a prohibition that does not involve an action, as one violates the prohibition through failure to take action, and concerning any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is not flogged for its violation. The Gemara learns by inference that Rabbi Yehuda holds in the principle with regard to the prohibition that does not involve an action, that one is flogged for its violation. From where does Rabbi Yehuda derive that one is flogged in that case? Ula said, Rabbi Yehuda derived this halacha from the defamer. Just as the defamer violates a prohibition that does not involve an action, as it involves only speech, and one is flogged for its violation, so too with regard to any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is flogged for its violation. The Gemara questions this derivation. What is notable about the case of the defamer? It is notable in that he is flogged and pays for violation of a single prohibition. Due to that stringency, other less stringent prohibitions cannot be derived from the case of the defamer. Rather, Reish Lakish says, Rabbi Yehuda derives this principle from the case of conspiring witnesses. Just as the conspiring witnesses violate a prohibition that does not involve an action and an individual is flogged for its violation, so too with regard to any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is flogged for its violation. The Gemara questions this derivation. What is notable about the case of conspiring witnesses? It is notable in that the witnesses do not require forewarning. In order to administer the punishment, which is an exception to the principle that corporal punishment may be administered only after forewarning. Due to that stringency, other less stringent prohibitions cannot be derived from the case of conspiring witnesses. The Gemara answers, the case of the defamer will prove that the absence of forewarning is not a significant factor, as the defamer requires forewarning and nevertheless is flogged for a prohibition that does not involve an action, and the inference has reverted to its starting point. The defining characteristic of this case is not like the defining characteristic of that case, and the defining characteristic of that case is not like the defining characteristic of this case. The common denominator is that in both cases of this Their common denominator is that in both cases there is a prohibition that does not involve an action and one is flogged for its violation. So too with regard to any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is flogged for its violation. There we go. Okay, the Gemara questions this derivation. What is notable about their common denominator? They are notable in that payment in both cases is a fine, and therefore other, less stringent prohibitions cannot be derived from them. The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that the payment of conspiring witnesses is a fine. In his opinion, therefore, that is not a common denominator. Okay. Rather, the Gemara proposes an alternative refutation. What is notable about their common denominator? They are notable in that the cases of the defamer and the conspiring witnesses both contain a stringent aspect. Therefore, other less stringent prohibitions cannot be derived from them. The stringency in the case of the defamer is that he is both flogged and pays, and the stringency in the case of conspiring witnesses is that they do not require forewarning. The Gemara answers, and Rabbi Yehuda does not refute a derivation from a common denominator based on the fact that both cases contain a different stringent aspect. He holds that the mere fact that there is a stringency in each does not serve as a common denominator. The Gemara resumes its analysis of the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis, meaning the majority, in a case of conspiring witnesses who testified that another is liable to receive lashes. Rabbi Meir holds that they are flogged with 80 lashes, one set of lashes due to violation of the prohibition, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, Exodus 20:13, and one set of lashes due to the verse, quote, and you shall do to him as he conspired, Deuteronomy 19:19. The rabbis say they are flogged with only 40 lashes due to the verse, quote, and you shall do to him as he conspired. The Gemara asks, and with regard to the rabbis concerning this verse, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, what do they derive from it, if one is not flogged for its violation? The Gemara answers, they require that verse as a prohibition against conspiring witnesses. Every punishment enumerated in the Torah, including that of conspiring witnesses, is accompanied by an explicit verse prohibiting the action that results in the punishment. The Gemara asks, and with regard to Rabbi Meir, who holds that conspiring witnesses are flogged for violating this prohibition, from where does he derive a prohibition for conspiring witnesses? Rabbi Yirmiyah said he derives it from the verse written in the context of conspiring witnesses. And those who remain shall hear and fear, and shall not continue to perform any more evil of this kind in your midst. Deuteronomy 19, verse 20. The verse warns that conspiring witnesses should not continue with their sinful conduct. The Gemara asks, in concerning the rabbis, what do they derive from that verse? The Gemara answers that verse is necessary according to the rabbis, meaning the majority, for the requirement of proclamation. So that's the end of Daf 4. Thanks for watching. Thanks for studying with me.